Strong Pokemon, weak Pokemon, that is only the selfish perception of people. Truly skilled trainers should try to win with their favorites. At least that's what Johto Elite 4 Karen says in-game. This sentiment echoes throughout the casual and competitive Pokemon fandom and has divided entire generations of Pokemon trainers. Are you a meta sheep, or is it possible to win with the Pokemon that you like? In this video, we will be exploring the history and results of the Pokemon VGC World Championships, analyzing the popular and powerful strategies at the time, and highlighting some of the results to find out if an unorthodox Pokemon can truly shine at the highest level of competition. That despite metagames being under top-tier supremacy, that weird Pokemon considered low usage was able to compete anyways. And for some reason, this happens most often at the World Championships, the most prestigious of events every year. If these Pokemon are present in the results, we will try to figure out the reason they achieved such a placement. By the end of this video, you, the viewer, will know for certain if your favorite Pokemon can actually join you in your quest to become a Pokemon master. And with all that out of the way, let's get into why tiers aren't everything, also known as the Pachirisu theorem. But first, are you hungry but don't have time to cook? Is takeout too expensive? Well, fret not, because this video is sponsored by Factor. If you're anything like us at FSG, you probably lead a very busy life, whether it be work or other obligations. Who has time to add further stress to your day prepping, cooking, and cleaning when it comes to your food? Why not enjoy your food stress-free by ordering a box from Factor? All of Factor's meals are chef-crafted, dietitian-approved, and come from a weekly menu of 35 options. They are pre-cooked and ready to eat right out the microwave after just 2 minutes. They may be pre-cooked, but they are never frozen, so they are way better than frozen TV dinners. In fact, Factor was kind enough to send us a keto box, which have all sorts of low-carb meals that are delicious. I especially love this black pepper and sage pork chop and the queso fundido and ground beef. Man, that was really good. But keto isn't their only option. You get to choose from a bunch of different meal plans, from Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, and of course, veggie and vegan. Man, that was really good. But that's not all. Factor now has loads of snack options, including breakfast, smoothies, juices, and small bites. This apple beet ginger juice was great, and the best part, it's way cheaper than eating takeout. Don't fall into the overpriced takeout trap. With Factor, you get the convenience of takeout as it's delivered straight to your door, but at a much more affordable price. So what are you waiting for? Eat stress-free and head to factor75.com or click the link below and use code FalseSwipe50 to get 50% off your first Factor box and 20% off your next month of orders. That's code FalseSwipe50 at factor75.com to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month of orders. And thank you so much to Factor for sponsoring this video. The very first metagame we will analyze will be the 2009 VGC World Championships, as this was the first time it was actually called VGC. We know Nintendo Cup 98, the Pokemon 2000 World Champions, Journey Across America, and the 2008 Video Game Showdown exists. We just chose to start here for consistency's sake. Even though the rules have varied from year to year, we feel like VGC's essence started with the 2009 rule set. 2009 was a year to remember for sure. There are many special things about this particular metagame. The release of Pokemon Platinum significantly buffed Pokemon like Scizor and Zapdos to incredible amounts, and this VGC year was also played on a special version of Pokemon Battle Revolution that was compatible with Pokemon Platinum. Game Freak, if you're watching this, please release that version to the public. Rules-wise, the metagame was heavily affected by one particular rule, the item switch rule. In between matches, you could switch the 6 items in your party around. This meant a Metagross that was holding Choice Band can now have a focus sash in between games. The psychological horror the players must have faced is something we can only imagine. The 2009 VGC metagame was heavily dominated by rain teams comprised of the core of Ludicolo and Kingdra, a powerful and hard-hitting pair of Pokemon that aim to end the game quickly with fast water and dragon moves backed up by fake out and rain support. However, when looking at the results for the event, we can observe a strange phenomenon. The most powerful and popular strategy didn't win or even make it to grand finals. Instead, those spots were taken by 2 creative trainers that found the shortcomings of the Rain team. In second place, Tasuku Mono fought Weather with Weather. Tasuku's team consisted of Yanmega, Hippowdon, Rhyperior, Zapdos, Shedinja, and Moltres. The philosophy behind the team is clear. If the opponent brings any sort of weather strategy, there will be a direct answer. Rain, have fun dealing with Yanmega blasting Ludicolo, while Hippowdon and Rhyperior form a bulky sand core and win the weather war. Shedinja could potentially invalidate entire Rain teams as well through its Wonder Guard guard ability, and Rain's lack of super effective coverage for it. Rhyperior also synergized well with Zapdos and Moltres to leverage the age-old Earthquake plus Flying type or Levitate user strategy. Moltres put a hard stop to Sun teams, which were a popular answer to Rain at the time, and the strategy made great use of the item switch mechanic. Although each Pokemon that Tasuku Mono brought was not considered particularly overpowered at the time, except for maybe Zapdos, they all had a favorable matchup against what most of the players at the event brought to the table. But as impressive as Tasuku's team was, it didn't win. The first place winning team belonged to Kazuyuki Tsuji, also known as Kusanagi. Kazuyuki's team was a beautiful sight. Ludicolo, Metagross, Snorlax, Salamence, and Empoleon, and of course, his trademark Toxicroak. The team had a healthy mix of powerful offense in the form of Metagross, Snorlax, and Salamence. Have fun guessing which of these Pokemon is holding the choice band as it explodes. The offensive core put a tremendous amount of pressure that very few teams could withstand. The genius behind this team, though, is the other three members of the team. Much like Gandalf, Toxicroak and Empoleon made sure Ludicolo and Kingdra could not pass. Toxicroak used its Dry Skin ability to become almost unkillable in Rain, while Empoleon slowed down the opponent's team with Icy Wind while tanking any move that could be thrown at it. Kazuyuki's own Ludicolo put Rain teams in particularly uncomfortable positions, where their Rain core was doing nothing to Tsuji's team while enabling Ludicolo's high-speed madness. Truly a classic. There's a reason Kazuyuki took the entire event. The strategy handled the top meta threats in convincing fashion, while leaving few gaps on its own pressure thanks to the support moves like Icy Wind and Fake Out. The 2010 VGC format is typically known for being the start of Ray Rizzle's reign of terror, but there was so much more to it. Early VGC formats were warped around some of the unique rules they had, and 2010 was no exception. The format allowed players to bring not 1 or 2 restricted legendary Pokemon, but 4 in the party. Although players were only allowed to use 2 at a time, team building philosophy was modeled heavily around the usage of the restricted Pokemon. Just like the year before, Rain was an unstoppable force. The concept of Kyogre has been terrifying players for many years, and 2010 was a prime example of the Blue Whale's might. This year, unlike 2009, the Rain strategy actually got the gold. However, this didn't stop many players from having success with strategies that attempted to play around it. In a top 8 metagame where the top 3 team had the Kyogre Ludicolo shell, one player attempted to stop the Rain at all costs. Meet Huey Ha. With a team of Abomasnow, Mewtwo, Parasect, Dialga, Jumpluff, and Groudon, Huey attempted to leverage the strengths of the grass Pokemon's abilities through Parasect's Dry Skin and Jumpluff's Chlorophyll to sleep any possible restricted threat while taking the least amount of damage. Huey also brought 2 forms of weather control in the form of Groudon and Abomasnow. Abomasnow was particularly popular in the rest of the top 8 as it had a favorable matchup against both Groudon and Kyogre. The gold nugget for Huey's success was his creative use of Trick Room Mewtwo with the self-destruct TM move learned only in Pokemon XD Gale of Darkness. This allowed Huey's team to unleash crazy amounts of damage while keeping control of the weather and speed with the rest of the squad. 5th place in the world isn't too shabby. Also, Huey is a founder of Nugget Bridge, by the way. Ah yes, 2011. The release of Pokemon Black and White is certainly fitting for what the game did to competitive Pokemon. On one side, there were many new powerful and interesting Pokemon. On the other side, they were too powerful. So powerful, in fact, that teams this year looked practically identical. It's a thing that happens from time to time in the world of competitive Pokemon. The strength of one particular Pokemon can be so overpowering that not bringing them to the table means you're going home with no wins in your pocket and a sad face. Thundurus was this Pokemon. Out of the 8 teams in the top 8 for this year, 7 of them had Thundurus, but there was only one that did not. Daniel Nolan from the UK brought Behem instead. No, you didn't hear that wrong. Behem. Perhaps the use of its signature ability Telepathy or its potential access to Trick Room and Ally Switch was enough to combat the Thundurus army. The rest of Daniel Nolan's team was Tornadus, Jellicent, Terrakion, Krookodile, and Amoonguss. With sleep support and area of effect moves like Earthquake and Rock Slide, it's easy to see how Behem achieved great success. Also worthy of mention is Wolf Glick's success with Cofagrigus, earning a 6th place spot in the bracket. Trick Room definitely is a great equalizer for some of the less represented Pokemon. Remember how we said that sometimes Pokemon can become too strong not to use? Well, 2012 was also one of those years. The 2012 metagame was defined by the use of powerful, bulky, good stuff teams that made use of powerful moves, while being supported by the borderline unkillable Cresselia and last year's MVP, Thundurus. These strategies usually centered around weather in the form of rain with Politoed Ludicolo or sand with Tyranitar, Garchomp, and Excadrill. Another popular strategy that was mixed with these teams is the age-old classics of Dragon types plus steel types, boasting incredible offensive power and great type resistances. There was some spice this year though. Once again, Wolfglick brought his creativity to the mix and challenged expectations with his use of Exeggutor. Wolfglick maximized the use of Exeggutor's traits with his unique approach to its moveset and ability, using Harvest and Citrus Berry to make it incredibly hard to kill, as well as the use of moves like Leaf Storm to eradicate threats, and Power Swap to use its disadvantages as a leverage point. It's clear why this piece of Pokemon history landed Wolfie a well-deserved second place, as there's a spot for innovation even in the most closed of formats. 2013 had many similarities with its equivalent from the previous year. Also, it brought a certain theory and genie to the mix. There was a tendency to utilize bulky offense coupled up with strong Pokemon. This year, however, things were different. Redirection started to take more importance in order to keep offensive Pokemon healthy. This allowed players like Sajin Park and Benjamin Gold to bring particularly creative pieces that fit the puzzle. Although he's remembered for one of his later feats, Sajin Park innovated in the redirection department with his use of Flame Body Eviolite Follow Me Magmar. A Pokemon that redirects moves with great defenses and a chance to burn the opponent was just the right thing for such a predominantly physical metagame. Benjamin Gold, on the other hand, brought Substitute Eviolite Rhydon as an answer to the ever-popular Thundurus and Rotom in order to effectively enable his Trick Room strategy centered around Jellicent, Scrafty, and Abomasnow. The first place winner for this event, Arash Omadi, took it all with his team of Tornadus, Amoonguss, Conkeldurr, Heatran, Latios, and Mamoswine. At first glance, this team seems like the standard for the times, but bringing Mamoswine to Worlds was an incredibly sharp meta call. A Pokemon that evaporates the Genies, Latios, Heatran, Tyranitar, and Amoonguss. It hits so many Pokemon that it didn't allow other teams to play comfortably around its offense, thus enabling its strong partners in Latios, Conkeldurr, and Heatran, while being supported by its defensive staples such as Amoonguss and Tornadus. Just one right call can go such a long way in the road to the World Championship. Alright, we all know why you clicked on this video. Sajin Park's Pachirisu is perhaps the most famous example of how an accurate assessment of the metagame can cause even the most struggling Pokemon to have a spot in the spotlight. In the months before the 2014 World Championships, the talk was centered around which Mega Pokemon the players would bring. This was, after all, a new power creep in Pokemon history. No one could have accurately predicted how a support Pokemon like Pachirisu stole every single reflector and heart in the crowd at the time, and in the future. Even though it looked flimsy and weak, it was the perfect partner for the Mega Gyarados-centric strategy that Sajin brought for the tournament. It was the only Pokemon available at the time that could redirect electric moves or moves in general through Follow Me, that also offered paralysis support and chunked huge amounts of damage off a slower Pokemon with Super Fang, helping its teammates Gyarados, Gardevoir, Talonflame, and Garchomp to rack up kills. This is a phenomenon that has been analyzed for years in the Pokemon community, and probably the most talked about example of why tiers aren't everything, and thus becoming the Pachirisu theorem. After Sajin's victory, surely the Pokemon landscape changed forever, right? Everybody started playing with their favorite Pokemon, right? Well, Pachirisu wasn't Sajin's favorite Pokemon until after 2014 Worlds, don't get it twisted. But anyway, teams were diverse and creative, right? Meet the 2015 VGC World Championships. This was the prime example of an over-centralized metagame. Parental Bond Mega Kangaskhan was just too much, and every team had to bring her along, as well as ways to play around her, or they got cooked. There's not too much to say about this one. The Japanese-style Chalk team proved its dominance and shut down the dreams of underdog team composition. Yes, we are aware that there's a lot of diversity and complexity within the EV spreads of each Chalk team in top 8, despite having the same mons. Much like how Ray Rizzle's Thundurus in Black and White was an innovative EV spread over other Thunduruses. But the fact that the same 5 Pokemon dominated an entire top 8 for a World Champions means the unorthodox picks definitely take a loss here. The 2016 World Championships top 8 seems like a repetition of 2015's stale metagame dominance at first glance, but it wasn't. 2016 is one of the few years, if not maybe the only one, where one group of testing's concept is so good that it demolishes the competition. The team that Wolfglick, Marcus Statter, and Barris Ockles brought to the tournament, all 3 of them in the top 8 of the event, and allowed Wolfie to finally take the glory home after several years of innovation and top 8 placements. What made this team so special? Well, every Pokemon was optimized beyond belief. belief. The creative decisions were not made in the selection of Pokemon, but the way they were prepared for the tournament. The team consisted of Mega Gengar, Hitmontop, Raichu, Primal Kyogre, Bronzong, and Mega Rayquaza. Mega Gengar allowed the team to trap threats that it needed gone or disabled through burns, and was trained to survive an astounding amount of moves in a powerful restricted format. Hitmontop provided the team with Fake Out, Intimidate, and Feint pressure to ensure that his hits would go through, while also utilizing Wide Guard effectively in order to counteract the many spread moves in the format. Assault Vest Raichu provided crucial Lightning Rod redirection and was a creative form of speed control and chip damage with moves like Nuzzle and Endeavor. Primal Kyogre was a monster, and Bronzong came equipped with Skill Swap in order to win the Weather Wars without having to compromise on EV spreads on the weather-inducing Pokemon, while also having neat tricks like Recycling Intimidate, Passing Levitate, and many more flexible uses. And Mega Rayquaza is every other Pokemon's sleep paralysis demon. The team was so good that it swept the competition, and it was also the first time most of these sets appeared on the big stage. Also worthy of note, this year Justin Karras placed a very impressive 6th place, utilizing Infernape as a tech choice. Using a naive nature, Justin Karras made sure that Infernape was hitting strong on both fronts with powerful overheats and close combats, threatening numerous Pokemon with one-hit KOs like Amoonguss, Bronzong, Kangaskhan, and other popular threats of the format. Karras also successfully utilized Fake Out and Quick Guard while coupled with a Focus Sash in order to ensure the Fake Out wars would be won consistently against other supporting Pokemon like Hitmontop, Smeargle, and Scrafty. 2016 is definitely some of the most memorable years in terms of player skill and creativity. The release of Pokemon Sun and Moon brought us another regional-only format. Many strategies appeared during this time, all mostly centered around the powerful use of terrains that the Tapu Pokemon set so consistently. Others were old classics like Rain, Trick Room, and Bulky Offense. The second place team created by Sam Pendelis brought something new to the table, Aurora Veil. The powerful combination of having both Reflect and Light Screen set up in the same turn allowed for previously unthinkable strategies like setting up while tanking a hit with Pokemon like Xurkitree, Tapu Lele, and Garchomp, and while being supported with bulky defense Pokemon like Mandibuzz and Arcanine, allowed Sam to reach the grand finals with an entirely new strategy. Sometimes you just have to find your own ninja way. One would think that creativity would die when Incineroar got Intimidate. The year was 2018. The support this Pokemon brought to the table was unprecedented and rivaled only in top 8 presence by threats such as Black and White Thundurus, Kyogre, and Mega Rayquaza. A starter Pokemon competing for the top spot as the VGC Messiah with absurdly powerful Pokemon like those, yet its year of debut was different. Its presence allowed Paul Ruiz to take the glory home thanks to his incredible call-out of bringing the little slug that could, Gastrodon. Gastrodon was a masterful choice considering how good its matchup was against Incineroar, Landorus, Heatran, Tapu Koko, Politoed, and Tapu Fini, which were some of the most common Pokemon in the 2018 metagame. Much like Irrational Mighty's Mamoswine 5 years earlier, who also made top 8 in 2018 by the way, Gastrodon provided an edge that allowed the rest of Paul's powerhouse Pokemon to shine much more, as they were much less worried about threats that usually checked them. The team had an incredible defensive backbone through double Intimidate in the form of Mega Salamence and Incineroar. Tapu Koko and Kartana gave the team great support with Electric Terrain and Tailwind, while remaining offensive threats as not to lose tempo. And Belly Drum Snorlax could catch the opponent slipping if it managed to set up. And it just goes to show, one good metagame call backed by a solid backbone can make all the difference. The 2019 World Championships was a format that allowed restricted Pokemon, and innovation in those formats tend to be in the form of optimizations, strategies, and movesets, but not this year. This year, Hirofumi Kimura brought Umbreon close to taking everything with his 2nd place finish. This wasn't only an out-of-the-blue pick from Hirofumi, but also the only team that did not have Incineroar in the top 8. Why was Umbreon so good for Hirofumi? It was doing too much. Snarl served as a way to reduce special attacking teams' powers, while Foul Play melted physically strong Pokemon like Solgaleo, Groudon, Rayquaza, and Necrozma with their own strength. Umbreon could use Helping Hand to support its teammates in securing kills they otherwise wouldn't be able to achieve, and was borderline impossible to get rid of due to its immense bulk and the crazy amount of health that Moonlight healed under the Primordial Sun set by Groudon. The rest of the team greatly capitalized and enjoyed the threats that alone removed from the table, and established a very strong offensive core in Mega Salamence, Duskmane Necrozma, and Primal Groudon. Backed by Tapu Lele's Psychic Terrain to avoid priority moves and Fake Out support, the team could face every strategy comfortably. Hirofumi Kimura's Umbreon is a legend. After a worldwide pandemic, the VGC World Champions returned in 2022. And what did they bring? Incineroar. They also brought Zacian. There were so many teams throughout the entire 2022 season using this combination that our brains here at FSG are unable to count. Even the winning team in Eduardo Cuna's first place team had that combination. Innovations from previous years like using Gastrodon to check Incineroar and Kyogre were also present. They weren't innovations anymore though, as Gastrodon had become a standard in the metagame after its success. Talk about a rise to glory. VGC history is curious in how cyclical it can feel at times. One year there's a crazy innovation, the next there is a couple breakthroughs, and sometimes if you don't play the strong team, you just don't play. It is what it is. The 2023 World Champions shocked competitors all over the world. In a season where players mostly practice with different regulations throughout the year that slowly introduced new Pokemon each time and allowed players to truly explore the new terrestrialization mechanic, all hell broke loose right before the World Championships. An announcement that a new rule set that reintroduced extremely powerful Pokemon was going to be played right before the World Championship shook competitive players to their core. What do you do when the information you gathered throughout the whole season is suddenly discarded? Regulation D stood for destruction that year. A lot of players stuck to what they knew were staples, while incorporating new offensive powerhouses like Urshifu. One player thought one step ahead. Michael Kelsch prepared a team that was not only using the new powerful Pokemon like Urshifu, but was perfectly equipped to handle new threats thanks to the addition of Rocky Helmet for Regidraft. This creative choice allowed Michael to secure a second place finish because of the sheer advantage that this Pokemon represented in the mirror match. A Pokemon that had found very limited success in the previous regulations was suddenly a stop to the most significant threat in the tournament. Farigiraf allowed the rest of the offensive core that included Qianpao Swords of Ruin, Dragapult, his own Urshifu, Rillaboom, and Heatran to play their game without worrying about something like Trick Room or other Urshifu ruining their day. Once again, an example of how one great call out can make all the difference. And as of writing the script, the 2024 VGC World Championships were yesterday. The entire False Swipe Gaming team was in awe of the creativity that players brought to the mix this year. Yuta Ishigaki's use of Iron Valiant was incredible to witness, as it was a creative way to support the team with a Pokemon that saw very little use throughout the year in a metagame thriving with Miraidon. Two wide guard users and coaching support in the form of Pelipper and Iron Valiant itself gave the team strong counterplay against the expected Calyrex onslaught that many players projected would appear at Worlds. It was strong enough that it allowed Yuta to get a second place finish at the event. Diego Ferreira's hard Trick Room team was also spectacular to see and proved once again that the use of Wide Guard with Iron Valiant's counterpart Gallade could do wonders. Every player in the top 8 brought many interesting tricks and optimizations allowed by terrestrialization and synergies between Pokemon, giving a new spin to old classics. Luca Carabelli's first place Electric Seed Terra Water Farigiraf is proof of this concept. Pokemon is a game that evolves eternally, and that is part of the beauty in the game. Things may seem alike, but they are never exactly the same. And that's it. We believe that any Pokemon can be successful given the right circumstances. Sometimes a Pokemon counters the main threat perfectly, like Toxicroak in 2009 or Farigiraf in 2023. Others are a Pokemon that's just the right call for a particular metagame, as it hits what it needs to hit well to lessen the burden for the rest of the team, like Mamoswine in 2013 or Gastrodon in 2018. A Pokemon can also shine thanks to a particular moveset choice or EV spread, like in 2016. And finally, a Pokemon can cover a niche so particular that only that Pokemon can do it right, just like Pachirisu, Parasect, and Iron Valiant. There will always be opportunities for any Pokemon to shine as long as competitors pay attention to the specific requirements that their team needs and metagame tendencies surrounding them. It is also the truth, however, that sometimes the metagame will not allow much diversity in the format because of the incredibly tight-knit and power-crept strategies that appear every so often. It is in these cases where trainers must shine through their in-game decisions and not through their preparation. And we hope that you enjoyed this video. Please tell us in the comments if you think we should have mentioned other Pokemon in other tournaments that have had incredible niche success, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching, everyone, and as always, if you liked the video and you want to see more, be sure to subscribe to False Swipe Gaming for more weekly Pokemon content, and thank you so much to our patrons for continued support of our videos, and thank you to everyone else watching as well. And thank you so much to our Platinum patrons. Thank you to Alex Sable, Anthony Belval Renault, Bingleton, Daniel Isbeast, Funky, Glitcherton, Gustavo, Hal, Jack G, Lord of the Rabbit, Pretzel SP, Raven Daytona Ring, Ray Ray, Skylaria, Soares and Croxon, Shiwei Miji, and Stoneface Colin for their major support of our videos. and follow my crew on these social media platforms. And that's all I got. See you next time, everyone.